Hi and welcome. I hope you are having a fantastic day. This is our cryptocurrency news segment. We're going to talk about Bitcoin price. The sky is falling. The sky is not falling. So let's get right into it. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is my opinion. I am not smarter than you. You are smarter than you realize. Do not trust what I say. Do your own research. So here's what's really interesting. We're recording this on Sunday, October 27th, 2019. And on last week, Bitcoin's price dropped and then it went sky high. And so what happened was on Wednesday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, the price dropped all the way down to the $7,500 range and actually a little bit lower. It was in the $7,400 range and below that. And then out of nowhere on Friday, the price shot up. And you can see this dramatic gain right here. And ultimately, it went from the $7,500 price to even higher than this screenshot. The screenshot shows us at $8,600. It ended up going all the way above $10,000 and then dropped back down over the weekend into the mid $9,000 section. $9,200, $9,600 in that ballpark. And so the interesting thing was, I liked saying the sky is falling, the sky is not falling, because even on Wednesday, when it fell down to the $7,400 price range, I had a drop, kind of a pit in my stomach, wondering, is it going to go even lower? I know that because Bitcoin gets used as much as it does, with $12 billion traded in Bitcoin on a daily basis, at least on most days, typically there's enough volume moving back and forth in Bitcoin that there will be a bottom to the price. I just wasn't sure how far it would go down. And so on Friday when it shot up, I was really, really glad to see that. The thing that I thought was very interesting, I've read some news reports since, and from that $7,500 price all the way up into the $10,000 price, that was a 42% price gain in less than 24 hours. It was about an 18-hour time period that the price of Bitcoin shot up 42%. Now, that is the third largest gain Bitcoin has ever had in its 10-year history. The interesting thing is that the other two gains that were bigger than that in a single day were all the way back in its early years, right around the 2012 time period. And it was right around the 20-cent price range, and then there was another one somewhere around the $5 price range. And so it was way back in the early years of Bitcoin when it did show some huge gains. In fact, if you bought on January 1 of 2011, if you bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin and you held it for 3 years, in that 3-year time period, and I'm sorry, I said 10,000. It's actually $1,000 worth of Bitcoin on 1/1 January 2016, and then sold it 3 years later. It would have been worth $2.6 million. And so those were the years where it saw the just huge, huge gains. Now, do I think that could happen again in the future? I do. I'm quite bullish on Bitcoin. Will it happen? What's the likelihood of it happening? I have no clue. I think it's possible. I think with the things that are going on with the BAKKT exchange going live and the volume on the BAKKT exchange increasing and other institutions getting involved with Bitcoin. I know that Coinbase announced about 5 months ago, somewhere in that ballpark, that they were seeing somewhere around $1 billion a week in institutional money investing in Bitcoin every single week. And so with all of this money flowing into Bitcoin, most of the people that are buying Bitcoin in large quantities, we've seen the charts, and the charts show that those people are not trading it. They're buying it and they're storing it so that they can wait on the price to go up. And so with all of these large institutions taking more and more Bitcoin out of the market, it makes less and less Bitcoin available for other people to buy, which over time is just going to force the price to go up and up. Because when people hit the exchanges and there isn't that much money, there isn't that much Bitcoin on the exchanges to buy, they're going to have to spend more in order to get whatever quantity they wanted to purchase. So I mentioned the BAKKT exchange a couple minutes ago. Let me go back to the BAKKT exchange a little bit. This is the very same day that we were just looking at it, but look at how different the BAKKT exchange chart is compared to this chart. You can see this huge increase in price right here, and on the BAKKT chart, it's a nice increase, but it's not quite so dramatic. In fact, the interesting thing is, here's the $7,200 price mark. By the time it starts going up, it had almost gotten to $8,000. And yet on this one, it's at 7,700 when it made this big arc right here. So this arc goes from 7,700 to 8,400, 8,355 to be more specific, whereas this arc is going from about $8,000, just under 8,000 where that bend is, and here's this line here is 8,800, and so this price here was, and I'm trying to remember, but it was like around $8,700. And so the interesting thing is that on the BAKKT exchange, the jump from here to here is much smaller than the jump was from here to here. And it was much more gradual. You can see it kind of had more of a gradual slope up. It's also interesting to note how it had been building gradually all day long until it had its little pop. The other thing is that when I looked at the times for this peak and compared it to the time for this peak here, there was actually an hour difference. This peak occurred 1 hour later than this peak occurred on this chart. And so the interesting thing was that BAKKT was gradually going up all day long, hit this peak, and that peak occurred on the BAKKT exchange an hour before it occurred. I'm trying to remember. Maybe it was this peak here. This is 5:24 p.m. and this peak came in at 5:40. So I know the time difference here was about an hour. And so this one was right here is where the BAKKT exchange hit its peak, and yet you can see on so this peak here on the BAKKT chart actually happened right about in here on this chart. It was right around 440 on this chart that it actually peaked, which would be somewhere approximately in this ballpark, somewhere in here. So I just think it's very interesting that the BAKKT exchange actually led this price pump. The other thing that's quite interesting is all weekend long, if you go to the BAKKT exchange, it's not updating. They're only showing this graph from Friday. So I don't know if they halted trading on the BAKKT exchange over the weekend or not. I haven't seen anything in the news yet about it. I expect that we'll hear more on Monday. But it just seems odd that during the weekend we haven't seen a chart for the weekend price action, because BAKKT does trade normally over Saturday and Sunday, and normally you will be able to pull up a price chart over Saturday and Sunday. Here's the other thing that's quite interesting. This volume of 1,094 Bitcoins traded on the BAKKT exchange, that is twice the previous all-time high on the BAKKT exchange. Now, I know if you go and look at some of the other exchanges such as Coinbase or BitMEX or one of the other exchanges out there, that Bitcoin is traded, 66,000 coins are trading hands on a daily basis. And so this volume on the BAKKT exchange is actually rather small compared to what you would normally expect from, the BAKKT exchange is owned by the New York Stock Exchange, and it's a joint venture between the New York Stock Exchange, Microsoft, and Starbucks, and they spent 4 years and almost $500 million, close, under $500 million in order to build this exchange. And so while this volume is small, it is significant that it has doubled its volume, its previous all-time high with the 1,094 coins that were traded on Friday. And so we see the volume gradually increasing over time. And it's clear, because the BAKKT exchange is only available to institutional investors, that institutional investors see this high of $8,847 that hit here. Well, this chart was taken at approximately the same time, and you can see that it was $200 more than the current price on Yahoo Finance. And I've noticed that every time I've looked at the BAKKT exchange, it seems like the prices that are happening on the BAKKT exchange are $200, $300, $400, $500 more expensive than what I found when I'm looking at prices on Yahoo Finance or on other applications that give me exchange pricing for Bitcoin. So I just find it interesting. It seems like BAKKT may have led that massive price jump on Friday, and that to me is very significant and very interesting, because unlike other exchanges, there's a lot of arbitrage that happens with other exchanges. And so let me tell you what arbitrage is like. I've seen videos where somebody will go into a dollar store and buy soap and then turn around and sell, they're like the 6 ounces of soap that you use for washing dishes in the sink. And they'll go and sell those very same bottles of Tide and Joy and whatever else they're buying, and they'll sell them on Amazon, but instead of $1 each, they'll sell them for $2 or $2.50 or $3. And so the action of buying something from one location and selling it on another location is what the word arbitrage means. What happens with cryptocurrency is that when there's a big price discrepancy, like the price of Bitcoin is selling higher than the price of Bitcoin on another exchange, typically somebody will go to the exchange that has the low price, they'll buy some Bitcoin, they'll transfer it to the price with the expensive Bitcoin and sell it on that exchange. And so they'll make the difference between the price on the cheap exchange and the price on the more expensive exchange. But that has to happen so fast, because there's so many robots out there that are doing that. In fact, even the exchanges themselves have gotten into that game. If you look at some of the different charts out there, you can see how, like for example, Binance, BitMEX, and a third exchange, I can't think of the name right now, I'd have to go look up the article, but those 3 exchanges, they were trading $100 million and $1 billion worth of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies back and forth between themselves, because they were taking advantage of those different prices on their own exchanges. And they were taking advantage of the arbitrage. The price of Bitcoin was cheaper on one exchange than it was on Binance, and so they would do an exchange of cryptocurrencies back and forth between the 2 exchanges, and they would make money on the side by just taking advantage of the difference in prices on the 2 exchanges. Anyway, bottom line, I think it's very interesting that BAKKT is starting to lead that venture, even though there's not, I don't know that the exchanges actually have been able to set up BAKKT accounts so that they could take advantage of arbitrage situations like that. And so I'm kind of thinking that BAKKT is more of an island unto itself. Don't know for sure. I don't have any evidence of that. But if they really are kind of an island of themselves, then the only thing that's driving the price when the price goes up on BAKKT and it goes up on the other exchanges, it's not because money's flowing back and forth between the exchanges, but rather because customers are looking and saying, hey, it's selling for that much over here. I should be able to get that on Binance. I should be able to get that on BitMEX. I should be able to get that on Coinbase. I should be able to get that on one of the other exchanges out there. And so just very interesting how all of this is shaping up, especially now that the BAKKT exchange has gone live. And I wonder, is the BAKKT exchange going to become the source to find the future price of Bitcoin by, a 2-hour window? Will you go look at the BAKKT exchange and see what price Bitcoin is trading for on it, and then 2 hours later, you'll see the other exchanges catching up? Could be. I don't know. Time will tell. It'll be something worth watching. In the meantime, I hope you have a fantastic day. But how can I be of service to you? Please leave a comment in the notes below. I'm very interested in hearing your opinion, even when you disagree with me. In fact, I'm actually more interested in hearing polite disagreements, because that's how I'm going to learn. That's how you're going to learn, is everybody has a difference of opinion, and we can learn from each other's difference of opinion by sharing and listening to each other and by offering polite disagreements. In the meantime, I hope that you'll like, subscribe, and hodl. Have a fantastic day.